Now that we've established that willpower is a shitty, terrible method to quit smoking, let's further examine why. Numerous friends and family members of mine who previously used the willpower method have terrible mood swings and done absolutely stupid things while on their journey to go back from ex-smokers to smokers. My mother, for example, will become irrationally angry after giving up cigarettes for 24 hours and resorts to using her bad mood as an excuse to light up. A former co-worker would clench his fists and grit his teeth while trying to avoid going out for a smoke break, often breaking out in angry bursts at former co-workers concerned with his unchanging mood. What they wanted was for people to encourage them into going back to their so-called regular happy selves by offering them cigarettes, but it proved to be a self-destructive behavior time and time again. Perhaps you may have also resorted to such tactics before. I have. It's very common, and this is what also creates the illusion that smokers suffer from some form of terrible physical withdrawals. What my mother, my co-workers, and I had in common was that we didn't know how to win the battle against nicotine. We had no knowledge of the nicotine trap or how tiny the actual physical withdrawals were. As mentioned before, the physical pain is so slight, so imperceptible, it's no worse than the tantrums of a child deprived of an iPad. The mental torture we put ourselves through due to our lack of knowledge about nicotine addiction and the traps are, however, genuine. Without this knowledge, you will never win the battle. The moment your brain starts to say, I want a cigarette, you have immediately switched from being a smoker who wanted to become a non-smoker to a non-smoker who wants to become a smoker. Complex, I know. If you continue on the willpower method, your resolution and goals of being free from smoking will wear down to the point you'll start searching for reasons to become a smoker again. You may think, I've gone 5 days without a cigarette. I think I deserve one. Not only will the cigarette taste strange and foul, but you'll fool yourself into thinking your quitting method must have somehow worked. If it did truly work, why did you pick up a cigarette in the first place? The taste may be different, but taste had nothing to do with why you were addicted in the first place. By keeping the nicotine demon alive, you have replenished its desire to destroy your life. Can you imagine how precious that cigarette was for the nicotine demon in your brain after it was dying of thirst? It would have been infinitely better to let that demon die once and for all. After that first cigarette, you now find more excuses to continue smoking. But all of these excuses are deeply flawed, and we know it deep down. Some of us will even try to cut down our cigarette intake or become casual smokers, but this only hinders our progress even more and ensures we remain lifelong slaves to nicotine. For those who continue to quit again, we just repeat another vicious cycle of willpower, while the rest of us just change our excuses. New excuses such as, it's one of my only pleasures in life, or everything kills you or gives you cancer, or even, I could die tomorrow by being hit by a truck, which are just more flimsy, shitty reasons that are untrue. The excuses to justify our failures to quit smoking are just as stupid as our excuses to smoke in the first place. This is another important part of why willpower just does not work. Eventually, we run out of excuses and come to the realization that willpower is just a torturous method that runs out of steam quickly, and we needed to put ourselves out of our self-imposed misery by feeding our nicotine addictions. In order to win the battle, we need to understand our nicotine addictions to grow our desire to quit. In our brains, we are constantly filled with reasons to quit and reasons to continue smoking. If we used willpower, our reasons to continue smoking grow exponentially. Instead, through understanding the nicotine trap, we exponentially grow our reasons to continue to be non-smokers, until our reasons to continue smoking deflate over time. If you believe you must go through some odd illogical form of initial deprivation and misery to successfully quit smoking, you're wrong, and you've been fed this your entire life. Many smokers argue that you can never be completely free, and those who quit using the willpower method will argue this case too, making it difficult to believe that being smoke-free is as easy as I've described throughout this series numerous times. I used to believe quitting smoking would be difficult and full of misery too, because every single attempt I made previously used willpower or a gimmicky product aid that was a cause of the misery and deprivation itself. I would hate myself over and over for failing to quit cigarettes. It wasn't until I understood my nicotine addiction and the illusions that really kept me from succeeding that I was finally able to quit. 3 years on, I hope my knowledge and experience will also help you quit. If you have a positive task or mission, such as say passing your driver's license, once you've attained your license, the doubt is over. So why is smoking different? Well, it's different because we are brainwashed to believe our only barometer of success is to see if we can go our whole future lives without cigarettes. There is no possible way to know if we will become effective non-smokers permanently until our deathbeds with a willpower method. You are waiting to see if you fail, and through willpower, hope you never to do so. Instead, you must change the goal and reinvent the barometer of success. Don't feel you need to wait your entire life to see if you'll really go without cigarettes. Understand your addiction and think of this as your quit smoking test. If you go through each episode carefully and follow all instructions, not only will you have the knowledge to understand the complexities of nicotine, addiction, and the traps, you'll also know how to escape the addiction with no misery. And on top of all this, you would have passed the only test in order to be free of cigarettes. You'll experience that moment of revelation. I experienced many revelations in different stages. I had many revelations when going through the quitting journey for the last time by arming myself with the knowledge of all my illusions about smoking and quitting were shattered, and it hit me like a rock. The next major revelation was when I had my final cigarette for good. I wasn't 100% confident that this would indeed be my final cigarette, but I felt so empowered, and deep down, I kinda knew this would be my last cigarette, despite the minor feelings and worries of not being able to quit. The next revelation came after a week of no smoking. I felt so in control of my decisions, and despite feeling the odd craving every day, I was no longer relying on willpower or another gimmicky product, and this surprised me. In my many failed past attempts at quitting, I'd be such an erratic mess. Climbing up the walls, praying for my desire to be taken away. The next revelation was a few days after I hit the 1 month mark. Someone had lit up a cigarette near me outside Central Station in Sydney, and instead of wanting a cigarette, I was disgusted and I had to move away. I had never experienced that in the 12 years I had been smoking. The next revelation was when I achieved my goal of going 78 days without cigarettes, besting my previous goal of 77 days cigarette free, a feat I hadn't completed since I began smoking casually at 16. Leading up to that record, I was concerned I might fall into old habits and use this as an excuse to go back to smoking. But instead of relying on willpower, I remembered this was all part of the nicotine trap and didn't have any cravings or desire. I then had my last bunch of revelations when I hit 100 days of no smoking, 6 months, finally the 1 year and 2 year anniversaries of my final cigarette. As someone who thought they would never ever be able to quit, I was thrilled beyond belief to not only hit 1 year without cigarettes, but also the 2 year mark. I know I'll have more revelations with each passing year, and I've never been happier. I'm often asked by other friends and family on their quitting attempts. They'll say, "When will I feel like a non-smoker?" Truthfully, non-smokers and I don't feel too different to smokers. You do have more energy and confidence, plus the increased money and the realization that you escape the nicotine trap, but that's a comparison of the old brainwashed versus the new confident ex-smoker. What some friends and family of mine don't understand is they need to educate themselves on nicotine addiction and the illusions that our addictions give us. In order to win the battle, you need to understand that willpower is bogus, and that your knowledge of the nicotine trap and how to extinguish the nicotine and brainwashing demons are all the tools you'll ever need. You're beginning to win the battle. In our next episode, we'll explore how you can win the war.